All right, so I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Ryan Thomas. This is the Thomas Take Instant Audio Buffalo Bills game reaction week 9. First one I've done this year because there are so many things on my mind relating to what I just witnessed in the Buffalo Bills' 24-18 loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I don't want to dive as fully into this as I usually do on Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock on the Buffalo Fanbase Podcast Network, as well as any audio and podcasting platform, visual as well, the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter /X at Ryan Thomas Take. And, man, I got a lot of takes wrapped into one with this game. 24-18, the Bills fall to 5-4. And as I watched this game, I sat there frustrated, befuddled, because at no virtual point were the Bills in a position to potentially even tie this game, let alone win it. And it was yet another game that is a game of recurring themes that speak to the fact that this offense has been a massive underachievement despite the talent that is on that side of the ball. And as much as we hear these sound bites of quarterback Josh Allen, offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey, Stephon Diggs, all-pro wideout, of course, we're going to hear them say that we're going to get it right, but they haven't gotten it right. And one of these 5 wins, mind you, was a 14-9 slow burn, the likes of which, similar to Killers of the Flower Moon, where you're sitting there for 3 hours and you wonder what the hell is even going on. I don't even know which character's who. One character's there, then they're not. It's kind of how it is with this team, and I'm not comparing the literal subject matter, obviously. That was something very serious that happened in that movie, but what I mean is there was a lot of moving parts in that movie. They could say Joe Smith was such and such. I don't even remember Joe Smith being in the movie. And that's how I feel about one of the worst contracts that the Buffalo Bills have ever put to paper in signing 32, 33, 34-year-old, however old he is, he looks older than that, defensive end Von Miller. Chris Collinsworth, co-commentator, color commentator, however you want to refer to him, overall not the sharpest tool in the shed, referred to Von Miller as one of the greatest defensive players that had ever played in this game, moments after Von Miller missed a 3rd and 3 open field tackle on one of the slowest, most unathletic running backs that the game has to offer in Bengals running back Joe Mixon. He's one of very few that have spent 7 seasons at the position with one team. You can look at that as a double-edged sword. Compliment that Joe has been able to last, Joe Mixon that is, has been able to last in Cincinnati for 7 years. You can look at it the other way that, man, since he can't find a better running back than him, overall not that great of a player, to be quite fair. And yet, Von Miller was deked out of his cleats by Joe Mixon. And I'm not going to hop on here tonight and provide my reaction and point the blame at any one moment, not the Von Miller overpaid player that he is missing a tackle, arguably even a washed-up player at that, missing a tackle, or rookie tight end Dalton Kincaid, who had another great game, 10 catches, over 80 yards, really was the safety valve for Allen in this game that largely the Bengals didn't allow Diggs to be. Gabe Davis, non-existent, 0 catches, 0 yards. Couldn't even notice him out on the field if you tried. Khalil Shakir, he made a few catches. His hips didn't lie. They still worked for him, right? But Dalton Kincaid's fumble was a big moment. Josh Allen's recoil, re-pump fake, double clutch throw interception earlier in the game, that was a big moment too. But man, each and every week, I look through this season in the losses that this team has suffered, and even in some of the wins, namely against the Giants, namely against the Bucs, there's moments where it almost looks like as if the Bills are giving these games back to who they play. They're giving the games back to who they're going up against, and that is something that's continued. They're not putting their foot on the gas with an all-pro, Hall of Fame caliber quarterback, as well as an all-pro Hall of Fame caliber receiver. Big picture, 5-4. Going into this game, you were 5-3. You had an opportunity to take back the AFC East, get back sole possession of first place against or from the Miami Dolphins, who you beat earlier in the year pretty badly, and you didn't do it. You didn't do it. And really, there are worthy reasons to wonder and ponder the questions as to if this team isn't the team to do it, what team is the team to do it in the years to come? You could even go back to those Super Bowl years and you could say, man, one of those teams didn't win a Super Bowl. You can go back to this team too and say, wow, we haven't even made it to a Super Bowl with these guys that we have. What a massive underachievement from these players that are some of the game's best. And yet, nope, we can't even sniff an AFC Championship game again. We can't even get back the Josh Allen that was the 13 seconds game that was Allen playing out of his mind against Patrick Mahomes in ways that nobody else has before or after or since, I could say. But I look at this team and it honestly, it comes down to the massive underachievement that they've had on offense. And so many fans are calling for Ken Dorsey. I've defended Ken Dorsey. I've ridiculed Ken Dorsey. I don't know what to make of Ken Dorsey and his position, being in the position that he is in, with the lack of true great results. I don't know if I can vouch for this because of the talent that this team has on it. There were things I really liked last week. There were things I liked even in this game from their offense, but few and far between. It was not consistent, and they found a way to make mistakes. Is that on Ken Dorsey? Well, the game planning, yes. Couldn't really run the ball. Tried to run the ball with similar type plays that just didn't work. And I greatly look forward to next week, as I do every week. But looking at this schedule, you got Denver, you got the Jets, you got the Eagles, you got the Chiefs, and the rest of the AFC East, the Dolphins and Patriots again, of course. Dallas. I mean, you got some tough matchups here, and this offense is playing like they don't know who they are. They're lost on this field. And you go to the other side of the football, the defensive side of the ball, they've lost major pieces. Matt Milano, of course. They lost, of course, Daquan Jones. They've lost, of course, Tre'Davious White. They're playing with two safeties that I wholeheartedly believe are playing in the last season of their careers. What I hope for them is the last season, because I think they've done enough for this team, and I do think they're playing a little bit long in the tooth past their prime. And that has also hurt the defense to an extent. There's no better option than them, of course, than Poyer and Micah Hyde, but Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, of course, but they're not what they were 2-3 years ago. That I know. And man, I gotta say, going to the coaching aspect of things, Sean McDermott, he has provided a sense of stability here in Buffalo that my generation had never experienced. For that, I thank him. That stability is noteworthy. That rebuild of the Buffalo Bills and who we are now is largely solely attributed to what he was able to do here and reshaping the culture and reshaping who we were as a team. But I can't condone the head coaching job that he has done in the last couple seasons to where we have not seen this Bills team reach that upper echelon despite the talent that he has accumulated on the team as well as Brandon Beane. And that's another talking point. What does the future look like for this team if this year is not the year, which it appears that it is not? We still got a lot of football left, but I have a hard time wrapping my head around how the Bills win a Super Bowl without Matt Milano. I have a hard time wrapping my head around how the Bills win a Super Bowl without Trey White. I have a hard time wrapping my head around how the Bills win a Super Bowl playing down to the level of their opponent and refusing every single week, even in wins, to win big, and even in losses, to finally decide, hey, we need to make something happen here when there's 5 or 6 minutes left in the game. That's when their offense starts moving the football, and they're up-tempo, no huddle, trying to play that 2-minute warning football. Why don't they just play that way all the time? And we can see what happens. Oh, they did do that against Tampa Bay, and their offense looked really good. So we're 5-4. We got 4 losses, 1 more loss than what we had in all of last season. And there is a realistic chance that we do not make the playoffs this year. I want people to cope with that. I want people to know that. I want people to understand that. They need to win 5 games out of 8 to make the playoffs this year. I don't know who those 5 wins are against. With the schedule that they have, they lost to New England, they lost to the Jets. Miami will be a better team than the version they played. I'm going to give them the respect they deserve in that regard. Typically, the first Bills-Miami game is one team is just not quite there yet, and the next one, both teams, by the end of the year, they're much better than what they were to start the season, much more even, rather. Do I think Buffalo matches up well with Miami? For some reason, yes, but who knows at this point? I can't tell you guys and gals every week how demoralizing this is, watching this team underachieve. It is such a massive disappointment, and it's a recurring theme of fanhood for me that is a different level of disappointment than what it was when I was a kid growing up in Buffalo. Yeah, the drought was horrible. Going through the up-teen quarterbacks that we had was brutal and embarrassing. But I think this is actually worse. To know that we went through all of that within the drought to get to being this successful, and to know that our practically Hall of Fame talent quarterback that we prayed and waited for is being wasted based on the horrible coaching that this team has, it's a true shame in every sense of the word. And if it doesn't change after this year, then this team will never go anywhere. Period. Brandon Beane, get excited to use those draft picks as much as you want, but this team is in proverbial salary cap hell due to the majority of the contracts that he dished out, Matt Milano being one of them, Trey White being another, and again, the worst contract, arguably, that the Buffalo Bills franchise has ever made with Von Miller. Von has done virtually nothing since he hurt his knee, and I understand hurting your knee is no small injury, and yeah, we're trying to get him back, but if he's not even 50% why is he out there? If he's not even 60%, why is he out there? 70, But Vaughn is not even a shade of what he once was. He is a non-factor at this point out on that football field. A non-factor. I've seen teams run away from him. I've seen teams run towards him. I've seen him blow through the right tackle. Doesn't matter. He's not quick enough to what he was before. And he's trying to get right. He's trying to get his feet underneath him. Well, we got games to win here. We're not playing in the preseason. This isn't training camp. You know what I mean? We're not at that point. Is he one of the best defensive ends in the league? No, he is not. He was. So much of this game makes me so frustrated, but so much of this game is so much of it that I love. I'll never stop cheering, rooting, and, obviously giving takes on this podcast in regards to all things Buffalo Bills, but I got to call it like it is. I got to be fair. This team is in real trouble, and we've ignored it largely as a fan base these last few weeks because we don't want to admit it, and rightfully so. We shouldn't be. We don't want to admit it, rightfully so, because this fan base has been through enough. And yet it is still not good enough. We are outcoached by the Bengals every time we've played them. The Bengals offense takes the field. They get the ball first. If we win the coin toss, we defer. No problem, says Joe Burrow. Mincemeat is that defense. I'm going right down the field again and scoring an opening touchdown to open the game. We're down to our third, technically last year's third string middle linebacker. Terrell Bernard goes out with a concussion. Micah Hyde leaves the game. And Christian Benford, Dane Jackson, and newly acquired Rasul Douglas are the top three corners of this team. Whew. Former first-round pick Kaiir Elam, man, he's made an impact this year. Said nobody ever. Bust of a pick that will probably be traded in the offseason. This team's in trouble, guys, and the sooner we admit that, the better. And I won't go on any show, whether it's this one, my show, 24/7 Buffalo Fandemonium, the Nickel City podcast, any of the podcasts that I hop on within this week, I guarantee you I will no longer sugarcoat this. This team is in trouble, and if they don't fix it, they will not make the playoffs. There's already a good chance that if they do make the playoffs, they won't win the AFC East. Miami could easily maintain control of that if we keep playing the way that we are and if they figure things out. Just throwing out ifs, possibly, maybes. But, my God, that game was terrible. And I don't know what needs to be done. I'm not calling for any coach's job here. What I am saying, though, is, you got this season, and you review what happened, and depending on how that's reviewed, how that's looked at, maybe you go in another direction. At the very least, offensive coordinator needs to be looked at. You're scoring 24, 25 points, mid-level numbers against teams that are in the bottom of the pack of total defense. You had 10 days to prepare for the Cincinnati Bengals team, and you mustered up 18 points. That's just not good enough. Just not good enough. More to discuss on the Thomas Take Sports podcast. It's a preview of what's to come. I will be on Wednesday night at 8 on the Buffalo Fanbase Podcast Network. You can follow me, Ryan Thomas, at Ryan Thomas Take. The Thomas Take Sports Podcast is available on all audio and visual podcasting platforms, streamed live Wednesday nights at 8. Facebook, YouTube, Buffalo Fanbase Network, and, of course, on X at Ryan Thomas Take. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. boy, I'm just scratching the surface of what I got to say.